Matthew 25:31 talks about this at left and right. It says, when the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, then he will sit down on his glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate people one from another, just as shepherd separates the sheep and the goats. And he will put the sheep on his right hand and the goats on his left. So while the world looks at everybody based on how much money you have, what skin color you are, that's not how Jesus judges people. He doesn't look at them based on that. To him, you're either a sheep or a goat. You're on his left or you're his right. Verse 34 says, then the king will say to those on his right, come, you who have been blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the founding of the world. For I became hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you received me hospitably. Naked, and you clothed me. I fell sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you visited me. So here was the determining factor of whether you're on the right side. Your attention to the needs of Jesus. And those needs, when he was hungry, you were there. Thirsty, you were there. Stranger, there. Sick, you were there. When he was naked, you were there. In prison, you were there. Well, in verse 37, then the righteous ones will answer him with the words, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you stranger and receive you hospitably, or naked and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and visit you? In reply, the king will say to them, truly I say to you, to the extent that you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers, you did it to me. Again, the word of brothers is adelphos, which means family member. And so once you understood who Christ's brothers are, and you were there when they had needs, then that was like doing it to Jesus. He didn't need to be here for you to do it. Once you saw Christ's brothers in need, his family members, you were there. I mean, the love that you had was shown because you were not thinking that you were doing it for Jesus. You were just doing it because it was the right thing to do. But Jesus said, you did it to them, you did it to me. Many people in the Watchtower don't understand who these brothers are. They think it's those privileged members up there in the governing body that when they have a need, you're there. That they're Christ's brothers, that you need to be there. That whatever they say, you must believe. When they call for some money, you need to be there and give them that money. You know, anything they need you for. Quick build. We need to build this building in 2 days. You need to be there. Whatever they need you for, you need to be there. Because if you don't do it to us, because we're the governing body of the Watchtower, then you're not doing it to Christ, and you're going to get in trouble. Jesus himself, the master, tells us who his brothers are. And if you don't believe Jesus, then there is no help for you. Verse 35 of Mark chapter 3, verse 35, it says, whoever does the will of God, this one is my brother and sister and mother. You notice that? Whoever does the will of God. That takes it way beyond any of those ones up there in the Watchtower, governing body, doesn't it? Because that can be applied to many other people, isn't it? Can it? Jesus did not confine it to these self-appointed apostles, but he applied it to those who are doing the will of God. When they're in need, are you there? As James 1:27 says, that this is what true worship is about, being there in widows, tribulation, and fatherless, and helping those who are in need. And so this will be a determining factor. You see, when religious organizations take in monies and things of this nature, what is their focus? Are they focusing on the needs of the members in the congregation and doing the will of God? Are they there for them? If they're there, it's like doing it to Jesus. You know, in the first century, they did such a good job, no one of them had a need. See, they were doing such a great job at it. They understood what it meant. Paul was told, okay, you go out here and do this ministry, but keep the poor in mind. That's what the apostles wanted to remind him of, because that's what Jesus told them. And that's what he did. So this shows you if you are on the right side of Jesus. That for the whole association of those doing the will of God, you have love for them. You're there for them. Depending on our actions toward those in need, that will tell whether we are a sheep to Jesus or are we on the right hand of Jesus. But notice verse 41, then he will say to those on his left, go away from me. You have been cursed into the everlasting fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I became hungry, but you gave me nothing to eat. And I was thirsty, but you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, but you did not receive me hospitably. Naked, but you did not clothe me. Sick and in prison, but you did not look after me. Then they too answered with the words, Lord, when did we see you hungry, or thirsty, or a stranger, naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not minister to you? Then he will answer them, saying, truly I say to you, to the extent that you did not do it to one of these least ones, you did not do it to me. These will depart into everlasting cutting off, but the righteous ones into everlasting life. So being on the left or the right has drastic consequences. Everlasting life or everlasting cutting off. And these ones who claim to be Christians, claim to be of Christ, but when it came to those who had needs, they were not there. Instead, they were enriching themselves. They were too busy collecting money for themselves to be concerned about the needs of those fellow Christians. And so they showed themselves to be goats, those on the left-hand side. Now they tried to say, well, you know, what do we do? It's like they're saying, what did we do? We didn't even see you to do any of this, so why are you getting on us? Jesus said, you didn't do it to the least of these, you didn't do it to me. So off you go, everlasting cutting off. You see, some of the worst people are those who claim to be Christian, who have sheep's clothing on, but inside are wolves, who whitewash themselves, but are full of dead men's bones. They try to deceive people and make them think that they are the ones, that they are of Christ. But Jesus said, look where they gravitate to. Where do they go? Where is their concern? That shows everything. They can make all the claims they want to, but they're not there. Instead, they're doing something with that money. They're doing something with their resources, but it ain't about helping those who are in need. And when you look at this, what they call this big, beautiful bill, all testimonies show that it's going to take away from those in need and give to the rich who don't need. Jesus said the healthy do not need a physician, and he focused on those who had needs. So we can tell these false, fake Christians, these MAGA people, they can say, Lord, Lord, all day they want to, but they're on the left. Because when it came time for them to decide to help those in need versus giving tax cuts and money to the rich, they chose the rich. When it came time to help people in Africa who were in need, no, they cut that off, shut that off. Oh, who cares? Many are dying because of that. They display none of the good qualities of true Christians. And all these churches that be collecting all this money and are not turning that money and using it to help their own, to help those in need who are doing the will of God, who are doing God's will, they too will find themselves on the left side of Jesus as goats. Because and that's what many of these people do. They use religion to enrich themselves to make money instead of what Jesus wanted to be used for. They're like Judas. They're seeing how much they can put in their pockets. Like Jesus says, I was a stranger. You weren't there. You didn't treat me hospitable. Left side, that's where they're going to go, showing themselves to be goats. Make sure that you're on that right side and stay on that right side by doing it to the least of these